Wow. Hey, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Um, so, I want today this session to be very practical. Um, I want this to be more of a conversation. I'm not great at just lecturing. I'm not an academic. I don't learn by listening to some guy talk to me for an hour, and I don't think you want to hear me talk for an hour or so. So I'm going to be pausing in between each of my points, and I want to hear your questions. I want to hear what you want to know. Um, the thing that's interesting about what the Lord has done with my career is that I'm not a professionally trained actor, so any acting teaching is really weird for me because I don't know how to teach it. I think the Lord has given me some ability to do it, but I don't know how to teach it. Which is why I've really wanted to focus in this workshop on the relationship between an actor and a director, because I have lived on both sides of the camera. I know what it's like to be in that seat of a director. I know what it's like to be in that position as an actor. And so I wanted that to be kind of the source of our conversation, and I want to hear from you about what burning questions that you have in your soul. To get kind of a feel for the room here, how many of you would say, I'm just an actor, just an aspiring actor, working in the industry, whatever, acting is your thing? All right? How many of you would say, I'm just directing, no acting? Okay? So we got like half and half. How many would say, I want to do both? Like everybody. Okay. So that gives me kind of just a little bit of a sense of how to tailor some of this. For those of you who were not in the acting panel discussion, I talked a little bit about my background and my story. I'll try to do a really Reader's Digest version of that. So when I was 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I knew that the Lord had just wired my brain in a specific way to want to tell stories. And so growing up, I was very self-taught. My parents were very willing to give me the home video camera when it was, 8 millimeter, and let me destroy quite a few things along the way. And they saw that I had this deep passion to be an actor, and I loved performing, but they gave me some wisdom to think about that the life of an actor can be a life of compromise. And so they challenged me to embrace that camera and get in the edit and try to make my own movies. So I did, and I discovered this passion for directing that I didn't even know that existed inside of me. And so that's what I went to my undergrad to study, was specifically film and video production. It was a pretty broad undergrad for not just narrative storytelling, but broadcast and a wide variety of digital media. And acting really wasn't kind of in the purview, to be honest with you. Feature films wasn't really even in the purview for me. I didn't know that it was possible. I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know it was possible. And when I graduated college, I directed a movie called The Board, and it was just this 40-minute intense apologetic presentation of the gospel in a creative story. And God took that 40-minute movie from the streets of Brownsburg all over the world in less than a year, and lives were impacted all over the world for the sake of the kingdom of Christ. And it was from that movie and then the follow-up film to that, The War Within, that God opened up paths and opportunities for me to start acting. And people started contacting me and asking me if I would be in their projects. And the thing that's really special for me about this conference and this festival, I can trace almost every meaningful project of my life back to this conference. It's just really, really super wild for me. I was at the 2016 Christian Worldview Film Festival, and Rich Cristiano was a friend of mine, and he walked up to me in the hallway one day, and he said, "Hey, the Lord gave me the ending of my new movie last night, and he told me you're going to be my lead actor." And I was like, "Wow, that's awesome." It ended up being the movie Play the Flute, and it was great when you don't have to audition. It's a really, 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 really great thing. But and there's other stories that I could tell you that really just affirmed for me that God was doing something that I could not do myself. And I know that my story is not everyone's story. I had a very unconventional path to where I am now in terms of booking roles and booking projects, but it's just the path that God laid out for me, and and called me to be obedient to do it. And so um, I've directed 3 feature films to date, and been blessed to act in a variety of other movies as well. And when everyone sits and tries to peg me down, and they ask me, which one do you love more? Do you love acting more? Do you love directing more? I've even been not lectured, but told that I need to choose one and be great at it. And I don't know if it's the challenger in me or the competitor in me, but I always am like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I think I can do both. And I think, just as an aside, hopefully this encourages you. I believe that God is so multifaceted in the way that He designs us, that He doesn't design us to do one specific thing with our life. And so if God has put a burden on your heart, a passion in your soul, and the gifting to go along with it, chase after that for God's glory. Don't limit yourself to what the industry says you have to be X, Y, or Z. See what God could do through your life, and be obedient to Him. So with that, I'll transition to taking this phone call real quick, and I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Oh, it's John. Hey, John. Come on, man. I'm joking. I'm joking. So I wanted to talk to you about the actor-director relationship, and because when you look at the life of a film, every relationship on set is important. And let me just kind of let that be the foundation of the conversation here. Every relationship on set is important, okay? But there is something about that relationship between an actor and a director that is crucial to the success of that movie, of that story being told. You could have the greatest script on planet Earth. You could have the greatest director of photography. You could have the greatest wardrobe and stylist team and makeup team, the greatest production design team. But if the director calls action and that performance just falls flat on its face, the movie is going to suffer. There's just no way around it. And so this relationship, this partnership between actor and director is so crucial. And the relationship between an actor and a director does not start when they get to set on day one. It doesn't start when they first meet each other. I believe that this relationship starts individually and independently of each other. It is a relationship that has to start with humility. I would challenge every single person in this room, whether you want to pursue acting or directing, to make your film career about humility. This is modeled for us in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, where Jesus says, I did not come to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many. Philippians chapter 2 is a perfect example of what it looks like for Christ actually emptied himself for the creation that he was seeking to save. And it is a model for us of how to lead and how to serve people on a film set. A couple years ago, I was blessed to give a workshop about acting specifically, and I titled that workshop "The Giving Actor." And it's a workshop that is just solely focused on how do you serve on a film set, how do you give as an actor, and I think that both an actor and a director have to come to that place of humility, because if they don't, I don't think that they see the full potential of what their craft could be. And I would, just to speak to the directors for a moment, I see this more heavy on you as a director. I don't have a Bible verse to back this up, but I do see the director as the under-shepherd of that film set. We as believers have an opportunity when we are the director of a project to not only shepherd the story, but the souls of our cast and crew. Some of the most exciting moments for me in ministry making movies have been private conversations with my cast and crew, where I get to pour into their life and hear what is going on in their life, because we're all broken people. And there's something about a film set experience that let's not joke. And I mean, it's like camp. It really is. And we can say, oh, making a movie is so hard and it's long hours, and it is. But we're making movies, folks. Come on. I mean, like, it's a camp, and you're doing life like intensely for a few weeks with people and rubbing shoulders with people, and the stuff of your life just comes out. It just does. On one of the last week of the movie I just wrapped on, it was an intense week, and there was this actress that was having an incredibly difficult day. We were running a little bit behind that day, and I knew in that moment I had to stop, no matter how much it put us behind, and minister to her, because I believe that there was an eternal impact stake that was at stake there. And I'm so glad I was able to pause and spend some time pouring into this young woman and praying for her and pointing her to Christ. So directors, please lead with humility. Actors, please serve with a humble heart. There's something about the film set experience that Hollywood has created for so long, where actors are, I don't know, like we're treated like babies. It's so funny. You show up and you're led to your room, sometimes your trailer, with heating and air conditioning and snacks. You're told to go to the makeup trailer. You're escorted by a PA to the set. You're told where to sit, where to stand. You're asked, do you need water? It's just the most ridiculous, like, pampering. I was so blessed to be a part of a project last year. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is. I don't want to get myself in trouble. So I'm going to be. I'll just say it. He won't care, and I'll ask for forgiveness. I'm blessed to be appearing in season 3 of Vindication, and some Vindy fans. All right. And one of the greatest things about Jared as a director is he looked at me day one. He goes, Brett, I know you've been on some bigger film sets. We don't do things that way. If you want a water, go to the cooler and get a water. I said, we're going to get along really well. I love this. So praise God for you, Jared. So anyway, so just I say that as a prerequisite that actors serve. Don't be served on a film set. You will bless so many people in the cast and crew, especially your director, if you come to the set with this desire to serve. Just try it. And I'm telling you, you will be blown away at the cool conversations that will happen and the impact that you will have on your cast and crew. Again, still kind of in the origin stage of this relationship, it's important to understand that not all actors are the same. Not all directors are the same. Actors are a rare breed of people. They're very emotional, they're very dramatic, they're very everything. And they're not all created equal. They're not all the same. And so it's important for us as directors to know that the way that you're going to communicate and work with an actor is going to look different from person to person. And actors, when you're working with a director, not all directors are the same. Some directors are more bent toward being visual directors. They love to tell the story through the camera specifically. Some are actors directors, where it's all about the performance for them. Some directors direct for the edit, and they will give you some of the most bizarre notes that you've ever heard in your time as an actor, of turning your head a specific way at a specific time because they know they want to cut at a specific point. Bear with them. They have a point and a purpose for those different types of direction. And they're different. Some directors are very stylized. They will have you do certain things that may not make any sense to you in the moment. But that's just the way that their brain works and the way that they're trying to tell a story. So just know at the foundation of this relationship that there's a discovery process that has to happen of what type of a director you're working with and what type of an actor you're working with. I'm not going to get into all of the different types of methods that exist in the world of acting, mainly because I don't know all of them. my approach to acting is very simple. It is the art of pretending, and I try to keep it. I try not to overcomplicate it as best I can. So that's the origin portion. Now we're going to get to the first meeting. We're going to get to the audition process. Here we go. So, again, with that idea that you want to come to a project with humility, when you get into that audition process, I implore you as actors, two things: be professional and be yourself. With this movie that I just wrapped on, it's called Disciples in the Moonlight. And when we went into the casting process for this movie, I didn't know what to expect. Most movies that I've cast have been very, very small. And because I'd been working on this movie for so long, I was hoping for like a few hundred people to come respond to the breakdowns on Actors Access, and I was just like, man, it'd be great if I got like 20 people per role. That'd be awesome. And we had over 23,000 submissions on Actors Access alone. And I just was not prepared for it. I didn't even hire a casting director because I thought I could handle it myself, and I got in big trouble. And what I can tell you from that experience is that your headshot is everything. And when I mean it's everything, it better look like you. Because I would tag certain headshots thinking, wow, they really look the role. Their resume is impressive. And then I would go to their demo reel and I was like, what happened? This is a completely different human being. This is not even the same person. Because they had so photoshopped their headshot or whatever, it was not their likeness. Please be yourself. When you get through the audition process, if you get to that meeting with the director, be professional. What was so eye-opening to me as a director is I would start dialoguing with the actor as I'm offering them the role, and it was like because they got offered the role, they were able to let their hair down, and then all of this like foul language and stuff just starts pouring out of them. And I was like, we're having a business meeting, for crying out loud. Please be professional. It's very important to have that approach as an actor. Because it gives the director a very clear understanding of what they're getting themselves into. And I can tell you on a couple scenarios with Disciples in the Moonlight, the Lord redirected me with one of the characters that we cast based on that after I made the offer, and saved me from some trouble. So when you guys are making that offer and accepting that offer, and that whole process is happening, you're really at the very beginning of this relationship. Think about it as like you're going on your first date. All right. I've been married. This summer will be 15 years that I've been married, and 20 years since I first started dating my wife. So it's been a long time since I've been on a first date. But I can tell you, when I did go on my first date with my wife, yeah, I was nervous. Yeah, I had butterflies in my stomach. But at the same time, I was asking questions. There was no bad question that I could ask because I was just desperate to get to know this insanely attractive woman that I was going out with. And in the same way, when you're in that first meeting, don't be afraid to ask questions. You're getting an understanding for the very first time at who this person is, and because the bond that you start to create in that first meeting has enormous implications of how things will go on set. And specifically, again, if I could speak to directors, because I might lean a little heavier on directors throughout this, so just bear with me, but you have to build trust in this relationship between an actor and a director, and it is the director's trust to lose, okay? The director is the one responsible for creating an environment that the actor then steps into and they feel comfortable and safe. Because let's be honest, there is no other position on a film set that is more vulnerable than being an actor. You go through the pampering process, and you know that's all nice and everything of getting makeup and hair and wardrobe and everything, but then lights are on you, everyone's staring at you, and you've got to perform. You've got to be real. It can be really uncomfortable and awkward if you don't feel cared for, if you don't feel like there's been trust that's been built. So in that first meeting, directors, I implore you, give your actors confidence that you have their best interest at heart and that you want to see their best performance on screen. And with that, before I transition, I don't want to get too far ahead. I do open it to questions. Yes?
Do you have any examples of or story or some kind of illustration of good and bad ways to build that trust?
Okay, so the question is, do I have any examples of good and bad ways to build trust with the actors? Yes. Because Disciples in the Moonlight is fresh on my mind, I will use that. One of the first things that I ask my actors when I make that offer to them, especially if I've never met them before, is I want to know if they have any reservations about the script, and I want to know if they have any reservations about the specific character that I'm asking them to play. And the reason that I ask that question is because I, as an actor, have certain parameters that I will not, or boundaries I will not cross, and I want to get all of that in the clear right from the get-go, because I don't want to get on set and we're 10 days into the production and then I derail the thing because I'm not going to kiss a woman on screen, and then the director's like, "How dare you? You should have told me that on day one." And so just I think fielding those questions from the get-go and saying, "Hey, did anything bother you about the script?" Because it's also a good opportunity for you. I mean, you're getting your first audience reaction from people in that moment. What works about the script? What doesn't work about the script? What works about the character? What doesn't work about the character? How can I make it better? And it gives the actor this understanding that, hey, they're inviting me into that inner circle, because not everybody gets that opportunity on a film set. I mean, I've never seen a craft services person go up to the director and say, "Hey, that line really needs to change." I think that'd probably be a good way to get fired really quickly. But yeah, so you're giving them opportunity to speak into the project, and that builds an insane amount of trust really quick. So that would be a tangible example that I've used in the past. Yes.
As an actor and director, so you're directing your own project, and I guess I can get myself worked up at times where I really need to be in my actor's heart, but I'm really in my director's head at the moment, and then vice versa. And I just be like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go outside for about 5 minutes. Just take a chill pill." I mean, do you have any advice on just bringing yourself back to what you need to be in?
When you're directing and acting in the same project?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is about what do you do when you're directing and acting in the same project to devote time to your actors and also just the vision of the project?
Yes, because you have to. It's the assistant director's like, "We gotta move, we gotta
Yeah,
move," and you're thinking of logistics, but then you're in an emotional scene.
yeah.
That's very important, a pivotal scene.
Great question. Great question. So she's here. So this is Carrie Fabian, and Carrie was my first assistant director on Disciples in the Moonlight. So so outside of the relationship with actors and directors, there are two other positions on a film set that I think are the most valuable for a director. One is the first AD, and the second is your director of photography. If you screw up those two hires, you are done if you're going to act and direct in the same project. So in Disciples in the Moonlight, I play one of the lead characters. And I knew that if I screwed up hiring my first AD and DP, I would not be able to devote time to my cast and my crew at the same time. And so hiring Carrie was pivotal, because I knew when I was going to be on camera that the interests of the project were going to be served and looked at from my vantage point because of how she and I had prepped and thought about the project. I knew I could step away from worrying about the visuals because I hired the right DP, and in many ways I was so in like cahoots with this guy that I didn't even have to think about where he was placing the camera and the lights, because I knew it was going to be the way I wanted it to be. But that comes after months, and in my case years, of praying and seeking the Lord and researching people, and because then I was able to, especially when I was in the scenes, pour my time and energy into being an actor, but also directing my fellow cast members as well. So I would say the advice is hire well, hire your first AD well, hire your DP well. It's crucial. Yes.
Going back
Thank you, Carrie.
to the first question, similarly, as far as like you said, having the comfortability and feeling safe on set, and you have to establish that relationship with the director. From an actor standpoint, for people just starting out, it's hard to establish those relationships because you're kind of joining the project later. You're maybe traveling, or you have such a small part, but you, as an actor, want to have that. Um, you want to be in that change of game where we want those sets to be comfortable and safe. We don't want to be the norm. How, as an actor, can we establish that if we are so far removed from maybe the first top cast? So how can we
It's a
feel
great
safe
question.
on set, even if we're the nurse on set and we have two scenes, but
Great
we
question.
still have our part in the cast?
Yeah.
How do we establish that when you have one person who hired you and you get 2 emails from them and they tell you be here at this time? How
Yeah.
do you start that? How do you get that relationship when you only have 1 or 2 emails?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So the question is about how do you thrive in a safe environment and feel like you're a part of the team when you're a day player and have a very small role in the film. I go back to the origin of this concept of humility and serve mentality. So not every director you work with is going to be great. You're going to work with some directors that you wish you had never met before in your life. You're going to work with directors that you wish you could work with every single time.
Sure.
And so it really then, the onus then is on you to look at serving rather than being served. So I'll give you two examples. One was the film American Underdog, where I was a day player on that film. And that was the home run scenario where I was working with directors that really cared. And though I was on set for a day, I still had phone calls with the Irwin brothers. And I still was able to dialogue with them about the character. And I felt very well taken care of going into that project. On the flip side, there's been other movies that I've been a part of where I'm the day player and I get 2 emails, and it's usually just show up at this time and have your lines memorized. And in that moment, when I step on set and I look to serve other people, now all of a sudden the project starts to get elevated because there's a change, that's something otherworldly and inhuman is happening, because that's not the default for us as human beings, especially as actors. And then all of a sudden, you will see that director start to give more care, time, and attention to you if you are coming into this process to serve. So, and it's not always going to go well. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like there are going to be situations that you're going to. I mean, my wife, if she was here, she would tell you that there are certain projects that I've been a part of where I go back to my hotel and I call her. I say, I want to come home. I don't want to go to work tomorrow because this is just a bad environment. And she and I have this dialogue of who can you be Jesus to tomorrow? And that changes the game. And it's a really cool moment for ministry. So, yeah. Yes?
Did Disciples in the Moonlight have a co-director, and have you ever worked with a co-director?
So the question was if Disciples in the Moonlight had a co-director. It did not. I have worked with a co-director before. The reason I didn't for that movie is because I had been in development on it for 7 years, and if I didn't know it yet, then we were all doomed. And so yeah. But I have worked. I think co-directing can either be really great or really terrible. I have worked as an actor under co-directors in multiple occasions, and you don't know whose vision you're serving. That's the danger. When you have a co-directors that are in harmony, it can be really fun. Like working with the Irwin brothers was really fun for me because they knew their roles, their lanes to stay in. And so that's a challenge. You just have to kind of navigate that. I wouldn't say that it has pros and cons.
there like a certain like workflow that they kind of have so that they're not clashing too much on their directing
Yeah,
methods?
so the question is there a workflow that co-directors have to make them successful? I'll use the Irwin brothers as a perfect example to try to model after. So if anybody in here is considering doing a project to co-direct, model after the Irwin brothers. John on American Underdog was very much more the technical side of the directing. He was the one spending most of his time with the DP and the camera department. Andy was spending most of his time talking to us actors. And I knew if I had a question, I was probably going to go to Andy and not John. However, with that being said, when we would break down a scene, which we'll get into here in a minute, it was very much this open dialogue, and I love the process that the Irwins have on their film set. Their mentality is best idea wins, no matter who it comes from. And so it invited, again, trust for us actors to be like, hey, I kind of got an idea about this scene, and we get to speak into it. And it wasn't this ego thing where they were like, well, we wrote the script, so you're going to do it. So consider that. Define very clearly, even in writing, who in the partnership is going to do what. Yes?
Hey, Brent. So going back to single director, but kind of building off of that, you were a producer on Disciples in the Moonlight.
Unfortunately, yes, I was.
In this festival, and in Christian filmmaking in general, a lot of our projects, pretty much 100% of these projects,
Oh, yeah.
are low budget. People are mixing roles. The director can be very involved in logistical planning, in camera, like you mentioned. So if you have a single director, how do you find the time to rehearse, meet with your cast, and really be a director of actors? And then kind of building off of that, if you have limited time, what's the best use of your pre-production rehearsal time and if you have 2 sessions with your actors, if you only have 5 sessions with your actors, how do you make the most of that?
Yeah, great question. So the question is centered around if you're wearing multiple hats, you're in a low budget production, how do you utilize pre-production well to develop a relationship with actors but still carry out the vision of your film? Am I phrasing that correctly? Okay. So this, for me, goes back to casting. I would say that I don't know if 85 to 90% of your job as a director lives in the casting room. If you get that wrong, it's going to be harder for you to develop the performances that you want to see on set. But I'll tell you this, I had a very limited time window on Disciples in the Moonlight with my main cast. I would have loved to have spent days talking to every cast member on my project. I just didn't have that time, and we had a large cast. There were like 44 speaking roles. I think it was just a massive cast, and I didn't have time. But my conversations with my main cast, especially my leads, were actually pretty brief because I trusted them and I knew I made the right choice in the casting department. And here's the most important thing. I let them know that. Tell your actor that you have full confidence in them if you actually mean it. Don't lie. But so much of that relationship really was able to soar because I said, hey, I got really no advice for you because your audition you knocked it out of the park and I trust you, and here's just some backstory ideas of what I came up with. I would like to hear what you came up with, and let it be a discovery process. Don't ever mandate anything to them. So with that, that's actually a great transition to my next topic. So what time does this get out? 4? Ooh, we gotta cook. Okay, let me just fly through a couple things real quick. If you don't do this as a director, I implore you, create a mood book. Other people call it a lookbook, whatever you want to call it. So for me, this is a visual representation of my vision for the film. So I didn't prepare slides. I'm so sorry. I feel stupid. But what I do is I sit down months before the project, and I create a visual representation of everything: the characters, the cinematography, the production design, the wardrobe, the everything. And what I then do, the most important thing, is to share that vision with your cast and crew. And so this is going to be really hard to see. I'll make this available for people to see, but it literally walks through every single character and the characteristics of that person. It walks through cinematography. For those of you who have never heard of Shot Deck is an incredible website to pull stills from frames as visual representations of the colors. Like I created a color palette. I created production designs before I ever met with my production designer. It's very important and useful to then to not only craft the vision, be able to back up why you want to do what you do, but then share that with your cast and your crew. And it was so good for my actors when I shared this with them. They're able to research what I'm wanting to do, and they're able to see what I want to do, so that then when we got on set, there's a lot of the conversation has already happened. A lot of the homework has already been done. So please, if you don't do that, do it. Try it. The other thing that I would challenge you to do in that vision building stage is to build chemistry with each other. So actors, get to know what kind of a director you're getting ready to work with. Understand what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what kind of music they listen to. I mean, it sounds like dating, but so weird. But it is like you're trying to get to know who you're getting ready to share some very intimate moments with, because a lot of people think, well, my scene partner is who I share most of the emotions with. True, but a good director will be just as involved. So get to know them, ask questions. One of the fun things for me with the exploratory conversations with my actors was calling them and just saying, hey, how's life going? Or giving them the freedom to text me and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you, praying for you, blah, 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 or whatever the case is. The more relationship that you can build before you get to set, the better. If you're in a day player role, that gets a little bit more challenging because you don't have as much access to the director, but research them. Watch the movies that they've made. Talk to other friends to try to get some understanding of who this person is if they've worked with them before. Get buy-in from your actors. If your actor doesn't buy into your vision, they're going to show up on set and want to go rogue and do their own thing, and then you've got hostility, and it's just not going to be fun for anybody. And with that, when the whole concept of getting buy-in from your actors, again, going back to the idea of the director creating an environment of trust, truly, directors, invite your actors into the space. So two quick stories on that. For the movie Running the Bases, I went to the directors, and there's this big long monologue in the movie. It's a big climactic moment in the movie, and I just wasn't feeling the monologue. I just was like, this is not good. I don't think a human being would say it this way, especially my character. So I sheepishly went up to them and said, hey, could I rewrite the entire thing? And here's the crazy thing. They said yes. I was like, wow. I kept some things that they wrote that I liked, but then I got to make it my own. And so having come off of that experience, then the lead actor for Disciples in the Moonlight, a crazy talented actor named Todd Terry. If you haven't worked with Todd Terry, he's insanely talented. He came to me. He has a big monologue in Disciples in the Moonlight, and he said, Brett, I said, don't even have to say anything. I know what you want to do. You want to rewrite the monologue. And I said, go for it. Because I'd already experienced as an actor like that freedom. And what he came up with right now it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Because, and the way that I even shot this scene, I boxed myself into the edit. It is one shot, and it is this steady push in on him as he's giving this monologue. We don't cut away to anything. Because I was like, I am boxing myself in the edit because this performance is that good. But that gave him, I am speaking for him, hopefully he would say the same thing, that gave him an insane amount of trust in me because he knew that I was rooting for him and I wasn't sitting there scrutinizing him. But that started with getting buy-in from him from the beginning. All right, before I transition to my final portion of the actually physically crafting a scene, anybody else have any questions? Yes? Mm-hmm. So how do veteran actors work with up and coming actors to help them? Yeah, yeah. So that's a great question. So I think one of the most important things is to demystify that there's a hierarchy. Um, so one of the most rewarding things for me personally on the set of American Underdog was my time working with Zachary Levi. I mean, it's Shazam. Like, he's a superhero. It's kind of a cool thing. And sitting down with him, we just started talking about basketball and football, and he just asked me what else I've worked on. He's not seen anything that I've worked on, but he was curious. And wow, did I feel like we were on the same level. And then especially going through the mechanics of breaking down a scene with him, I was like, this is like working with anybody else. So it's really the same thing. And so that veteran coming alongside me and demystifying this whole concept that because he has more film credits than I do, that he's somehow better than me or more advanced or whatever, it just demystified everything, and I felt so comfortable. So I would encourage people to do that to your fellow actors as well. Any other questions?
What are some of the terms that directors and actors use on set?
Some terms that directors and actors use on set, like in capturing a scene, or it will vary from director to director, to be honest. So I pick up things with every project that I'm associated with, and okay, actually, this is a great example. Actors, you must learn the terminology that your director uses. Okay, I'm going to throw him under the bus, and his name is Rich Cristiano. So, Rich, on the set of his films, you'll pour out your heart in this take, and you're crying, and it's this Oscar-worthy performance, and you feel good. He calls cut, and he goes, usable. And you're like, oh, what? I just gave you gold, and you said it was usable. So now I use that on my film sets because I think it's hilarious. I would turn to my scripty on Disciples, and I would say, usable. I would never let my actors hear that, but so a lot of times, like when an actor hits a home run for me, I say print check the gate, moving on. I just speak that out loud so everyone on set hears it, because they know I don't need to see anything else. They just gave me something that was perfect. I'm moving on. And specifically, to answer your question specifically, there's not necessarily specific terminology because it changes from director to director and actor to actor. But this is something I would just say specifically for directors. When an actor does give you what you need, celebrate that with them. Let them know that they came through for you. It's the most vulnerable place on set, like I said. It's very, very intimidating. And if you, as the director, say, cut, okay, moving on, and you don't even go talk to your actor and thank them, oh, how demoralizing that is as an actor. It just feels like you just poured out your heart and you have no feedback. One of the other things that I do when I'm directing, this kind of transitions us into the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to talk about a little bit. I thank my actors after every take, even if it was terrible. I go up to them and I say thank you, because I know what it's like to sit there under those lights and that camera, and you're trying to go through a million different emotions and thoughts, and then if they come straight up and they just say that this was terrible, this was okay, let's try this or whatever, without hearing the words thank you, a thank you can go a long way. So consider that. But when they do hit the mark for you, let them know that. It's very, very important. And actors, let me speak to you for just a moment. When a director gives you notes, thank them. And here's why. It's very, very hard as an actor to take direction when you disagree with it, okay? But consider something. You're not watching the monitor. You're not listening through the headphones. they have your best interest at heart. If a good director will try to make his or her actors look amazing. So when they give you a note, there's a reason for it. Even if you think it's the stupidest note you've ever heard, thank them. That will go a long way to then giving your director trust that this is a partnership. We're working in cahoots here. Quickly, I'm going to give you a couple different little tangible notes of some things that have just served me really well, and then I'll open up for final questions. I am a director who believes in proximity. I want to physically be as close as humanly possible to my actors when they are performing. Now, in the case of Disciples in the Moonlight, that 90% of the time worked out because I was in the scene with them. But even when I'm not in the scene, if this lovely lady here is my actress, typically Video Village is like over there by Aaron. And a director, don't ever do this, will shout, all right, try that again, and this time a little slower. Don't do that. I set up my monitor right here, just outside of camera, just outside of her eye line, so that when we cut, I'm right here, and I'm close, and I whisper the direction. And take this in the right light. Physical touch can also go a long way. Don't get creepy with this. Be real with it. But a touch on the shoulder, that physical touch can go can just continue to build that level of trust between you and an actor. One of my most favorite moments that happened to me that I was able to experience on Disciples in the Moonlight was with the actor who actually wrote the script. And it's my favorite scene in the entire movie. I'm not going to give any spoilers away. And he knocked it out of the park. And I don't know how long that was, but for like a while, two grown men just hugged and cried. And we just sobbed into each other's arms because it was the fulfillment of like 7 years. And he's not a touchy-feely guy, but I didn't care. I was going to hug that man. I was going to hug him hard. But that physical touch did so much to open up new conversation. So proximity, let your actors know that you're rooting for them, that you care. Whisper direction if at all possible. Because I just saw her walk in. Micah Lynn Hansen is also in Disciples in the Moonlight. And there was this a very important scene, very emotional scene, and we were in a very small house. Like, it was so small and so loud, because whenever everybody starts talking, it just was so loud. And after every take, I would go to her, and I would just sit very close to her and whisper the direction. And I didn't really need to give much. It was just I was looking for different flavors, and it was mainly because we had some problems with the camera. That's the other thing, too. Sorry, real quick. I'm flying a million miles an hour. Let your actors know if a take is happening again because of a technicality. Please, please tell them, hey, focus was soft. You were great. You're amazing. But we got to go again. Or, hey, you were great, but there was a bogey in the background. Or whatever the case is. Let them know that, because it can be very demoralizing if you're calling for take after take and there's just no explanation to why. As an actor, you're like, am I just that bad? There's a lot of other things I would love to talk about. We don't have the time. The final thing I will close with, and then I'll open it up for questions, is that the cool thing, when a relationship between an actor and a director is cultivated well, it's shepherded, it's based in humility, it is cultivated in humility, the lifelong bond that will exist between actor and a director is something that's so cool to me. 1, 2, 3, 4 of my actors from Disciples. Is anybody else here that was in my movie? I see 4 of you. The blessing for me. Oh man, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. These characters have lived in my head for 7 years, and to see how they came off I'm sitting there in the edit, and I'm the only person in the room, and I'm just sobbing. And it's so meaningful to me as a director because you guys gave me something that I couldn't have even imagined. And the cool thing is that now the outside of this project, I mean, the movie will do its thing hopefully, and I pray that it impacts lives all over the world. But after all is said and done, I know the bonds that we created, and I know the relationships that we cultivated, and those will exist beyond the movie. And that's just really cool gifts from the Lord. But I say this not to pat myself on the back, but I say this because the relationships were cultivated with care. It was a team effort. When you see this movie, the performances are not going to be great because of me. The performances are going to be great because there was this partnership of actor and director seeking to tell the story the best way we could. With that, I'll just open up for any more questions. Yes. How early do you start cultivating that relationship between actor and director? Before production? As early as humanly possible. It depends on how long your pre-production schedule is. Some films will cast before funding is even in place, and they attach people before they're able to greenlight production. And so that's like beautiful because you get to cultivate relationships all day long until the funding comes through. Sometimes it's just a very tight window. For me, I started casting Disciples in July of 22, and we started rolling beginning of October of 22. So I had a couple months, and I wish I would have had longer, and a lot of it was because I was wearing multiple hats. I didn't get to spend as much time as I wish I had with the actors, but I would say typically you're going to have anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, more often than not. Like some films, you might get called and say, "We need you on set tomorrow." Like for example, I was cast in a movie at the beginning of 22. Was going to work with Ken Carpenter, and was super excited about the movie. And then 4 days before I was supposed to be on set, I got COVID, and they had to recast me. And so whoever they cast had no warning and no time to prep, and they were just like, "You're on camera." So stuff like that happens. Yes. Great question. Great question. So the question is about how long of time do you have to rehearse with your actors? That is kind of a specific thing to directors. I'm not the type of director personally that loves to do rehearsal after rehearsal and table read after table read. And a lot of it comes from this place in my heart where I want to see authenticity on camera. I like to see the gut reaction. And a lot of that's because of me as an actor. I don't like to rehearse a ton. But I do ask my actors, if I have the sense that they want to rehearse, I'll run lines with them all day long. I'll do table reads. We'll do long blocking rehearsals or whatever. I don't know if it's just the way I direct. I had such confidence in my team on Disciples in the Moonlight that we didn't spend a ton of time rehearsing. But a lot of that was, just the trust that I had. But it is totally okay to request it. As an actor, if you really love rehearsing, ask your director.
I was the director, and I asked 4 weeks, and they thought that was a lot.
That's not uncommon. I mean, some people love to rehearse, and so if that's the type of director that you are, budget that into pre-production, and that's a beautiful time to start building that relationship with your actors. Any other questions? One more question. It better be a good one. Yes. I'm just kidding. No pressure. How do I, as a director, balance getting the performances and the trust with the actors while maintaining the vision of the project? Is that the question? I go back to hiring well. If you've done your job correctly, if you've not only created the vision, but then inspired your team to buy in and speak into that vision, when it comes to working with the actors, you're just executing at that point. You're not like coming up with it on the spot. Um, there were multiple moments on the set of Disciples in the Moonlight where we were tweaking dialogue minutes before we rolled camera. Um, but it worked because all the nuts and bolts were already in motion. One of the first things that I do with my key department heads is I ask them to speak into my mood book. What do you like? What do you not like? When you look at the script, what's weak? What needs improvement? And while all of those things and people are working behind the scenes, you're building time and energy and relationship with your actors, so that then when you get to set, you're just capturing it. I love and hate pre-production. Pre-production is really where your film is made. It's tedious. It's boring for me. Some people love it, and God bless you. But then when we got to set, it was just like, all right, roll camera. We got this. So, but it goes to hiring well and trusting your team. Boy, every day we started production on Disciples, Carrie and I would call the whole team together, and we would just give some logistics of, starting the day. What are we going to be doing today? But it was a time for us to just, as director and first AD, to just pour into them and say, thank you. You guys rock. I don't know how many times we just kept saying, you guys are doing a great job. It was really, we had no other good words of encouragement. We're pretty boring. But it was just important for us to tell them, you guys are doing amazing. I see Mary, my key makeup hair. It was amazing to see them at work, and I wanted them to know, I trust you. With all the chaos that goes on a film set, if the actors and the crew hear from the lips of the director, I trust you. Boy, that is fuel like you will never believe. And the opposite, if your team doesn't hear you say, I trust you, watch many cooks in the kitchen start to emerge and try to make your movie, and it will be disastrous. With that, and prayer. Oh, goodness, yes. Thank you, Carrie, for reminding me of that. We started every day with prayer on Disciples in the Moonlight and invited God into the presence of the crafting of the story. And what was so cool for me was seeing God answer prayers that I didn't even know to pray for. Going before us and solving problems I didn't know that were even happening behind the scenes. But it was because we as a team continually came together and said, God, we need your help. We need your blessing. We need your favor. And without you, we can't do this. So with that, I'm done.